A little orphan girl named Dorothy lived with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry on a farm in Kansas. She lived on the prairie where everything was flat and gray. The grass was gray, the sky was gray, even her uncle and aunt were made gray by all the hard work they had to do on the farm. The only reason Dorothy was not gray was because her little dog Toto made her happy. Dorothy lived in a small gray house which contained a single room she had to share with her uncle and aunt. One day a tornado quickly formed and hit her little farm. Aunt Em ran to the cellar, and Uncle Henry ran outside to check on the cattle. But Dorothy and Toto were stuck in the little house, as it got picked up by the tornado. At first Dorothy was scared as they spun round and round in the sky, but as the hours passed, she grew quite bored and fell asleep on her little bed. She jumped awake when the house crashed to the ground. Sunshine flooded the house, and Dorothy looked outside at the most beautiful sight she had ever seen. The ground was beautifully green, with brightly colored flowers and a peaceful little creek. As Dorothy stood in the doorway, she was approached by a group of munchkins and an old woman with a dress covered in stars. They were all about her height, but with much older faces. The old woman thanked Dorothy for killing the evil witch of the East. This confused Dorothy, who had not meant to kill anybody. The old woman explained how Dorothy's house had landed on top of the witch and killed her. The old woman was a good witch from the north, and a friend of the Munchkins of the east, who had been slaves of the witch Dorothy's house had just landed on. All that was left of the evil witch were her magic silver shoes, that the old woman then gave to Dorothy. Dorothy then began missing home and asked how she could get back. The good witch told her she was now in the magical land of Oz, that was surrounded by a terrible desert on each side, and there was no way for her to get home. Hearing this, Dorothy began to cry. The good witch then used her magic to come up with an idea. She gave Dorothy a magic kiss to protect her, and then sent her off to walk to the Emerald City, which was in the very center of Oz. There lived a powerful wizard who could help her get home. Dorothy made her way through Munchkin Country on a road of yellow bricks. It was a land of beautiful farms, and everyone was very nice to her, thinking her to be a good witch since she wore the silver shoes. Along the road, Dorothy came across a talking scarecrow, who she helped down from its pole. The scarecrow was stuffed with hay and decided to go along with Dorothy so that he can ask the wizard for a brain. The yellow brick road led them into a dark forest where they found a rusted man made from tin in need of help. Dorothy found his can of oil and oiled his joints so he could move again. The Tin Man was kind and gentle, and decided to go along with Dorothy and the Scarecrow to meet the wizard, for he wished to ask for her heart. He cleared the path for them with his axe while telling them his story of how he'd become made of tin. He had once been a regular woodcutter in love with a pretty Munchkin girl. She had agreed to marry him if he built her a larger house. Yet the old woman she lived with was lazy and afraid to lose her help around the house, so she paid the evil witch that Dorothy's house had just killed to kill the woodcutter. The witch put a curse on his axe, and the woodcutter lost both his arms, his legs, his head, and worst of all, his heart, and had to be remade of tin by the local tinsmith. The tinsman desperately wanted his heart back so he could love the Munchkin girl again and be happy. As Dorothy and her new friends continued through the forest, they were attacked by an enormous lion. Dorothy, being very brave, slapped the lion on his nose. This caused the lion to start crying. He was a talking lion, but quite cowardly. He only acted tough because all the other animals in the forest thought he was. He apologized for attacking them, and after learning that they were going to the Wizard of Oz for help, he decided to go along to ask for courage. So Dorothy, her dog Toto, a brainless scarecrow, a heartless woodsman, and a cowardly lion continued along the yellow brick road towards the Emerald City. As they followed the road, they came across a great ditch that only the lion was able to jump across. They all took turns riding on the lion's back as he jumped over the ditch. When they all made it safely across, they came upon an even bigger ditch that even the lion couldn't cross. The scarecrow came up with an idea. The woodsman could make a bridge by cutting down a tall tree, and so with the help of the lion, the woodsman made a tree bridge. As they were about to cross, they were attacked by two monsters even larger than their lion. So they all ran across the bridge, and the woodsman cut down the bridge before the monsters could get to them. The road then led them to a river where they spent the night. The woodsman made a raft across the river with long sticks for paddles, but the current was too strong for them to paddle across, and the scarecrow got stuck on his paddle in the middle of the river as the raft with all his friends floated away. The lion jumped out of the raft and pulled them to shore. They were now lost, with no scarecrow and no road to follow, so they decided to walk along the side of the river until they came upon their friend. When they found him, they had to ask a nearby bird for help to save him. The bird was kind and grabbed the scarecrow and flew him safely back to shore. Thanking the bird, Dorothy and her friends continued along the side of the river. they came upon a beautiful meadow filled with poppy flowers. Overwhelmed by the beautiful smell, Dorothy, the lion, and Toto fell asleep. The Scarecrow and the Woodsman carried Dorothy and Toto to safety outside the poppy field. They had to get the help of 1,000 nearby field mice, whose queen the Woodsman had saved from a wild cat, to pull the lion to safety. When they had all awoken, they continued on and found the yellow brick road again. They followed it up to the Emerald City, where they entered through a huge gate, and were made to put on green spectacles. The city was beautiful, and everything inside of it was green. They were all given rooms in the wizard's palace until he was ready to see them. The next day Dorothy was led alone to the throne room of the palace, where a giant talking head sat at the throne. She asked the head, who was the wizard, to send her back to Kansas. He agreed to help, but first she must do something for him. She must kill the Wicked Witch of the West. This shocked Dorothy and made her cry. She didn't want to kill anyone, and she didn't even know how she would go about killing a witch. After all her friends had met individually with the wizard, each seeing him in a different form, and received the same answer, they realized they didn't have a choice. If they were to receive what their hearts desired, they would have to kill the Wicked Witch of the West. So they set off on a new journey.